Hi, this is Mad Movie Mark with the Mad Movie Mark Movie Review. Thank you for joining me as I review the 1957 courtroom drama extravaganza, 12 Angry Men.
Oh, he's a real bull, this kid. You know, boom, real jug handle. You know, boom.
Well, thank you. I hope I live up to your expectations. I'm reviewing every movie that has 100% fresh rating on Rotten Tomatoes. I'm giving them all a score of 1 to 10. After I watch them and score them all, I will rank them from worst to best. I started in the 1920 silent movie era, and now I'm at 1957 with 12 Angry Men. This movie has a 100% fresh rating from the critics and a 97% fresh rating from the audience. It is the highest audience-ranked movie out of any movie that has a 100% fresh rating. It is tied for that honor with Seven Samurai. So as with all my reviews, this will be a spoiler-filled movie review starting after this sentence. So if you haven't seen this movie and you want to watch it, I would suggest watching it first. So I will try to argue in this movie that Henry Fonda, who was juror number 8, was wrong in everything that he did throughout this movie, and that the 18-year-old was probably guilty of the murder based on the evidence that was seen in the court, or the evidence that we were told was seen in the court.
I object.
I object.
So this movie is about an 18-year-old who is accused of killing his father. Now, in the beginning, we see a shot of the 18-year-old. He is kind of looking frail. He looks much younger than 18. He looks like he's scared. He looks like he's worried. And the judge says that his life is in the hands of these 12 jurors. If they find him guilty, then it is a punishment of death. There is no later sentencing where they talk about life in prison or death. It is death or nothing. And all of them have to come to the same conclusion. So they all have to 12 agree on what the outcome is. So they all go into the jury room, the jury deliberation room. It is very hot. It is very muggy. There's no air conditioner. The fan isn't working. And immediately, a lot of the jurors are talking amongst themselves, and they believe that this kid is guilty, that the evidence says that he's guilty, that the witnesses explained their positions very well, and the witnesses made it believe that he was guilty, and that it's an open and shut case.
How'd you like it?
Oh, I don't know. It was pretty interesting.
I almost fell asleep.
I mean, I've never been on a jury before.
No, I sat on many juries. What gets me is where those lawyers talk and talk and talk, even when it's an open and shut case like this one. I mean, did you ever hear so much talk about nothing?
In fact, there's one of the jurors, juror number 7, has a the baseball game to go to in a couple hours, so he's hoping for a nice quick decision so he can make it to that Yankees baseball game. So they decided in the beginning that they were going to take a tally around the room, try to get an idea of what people think, if the kid is innocent or if the kid is guilty. So 11 people think that he is guilty, and one standout thinks he is innocent, and that standout is juror number 8, who is Henry Fonda. So a couple of the other jurors, they make an appeal to Henry Fonda, and they say, so why do you think he's innocent? Like, what did you see during that trial that we didn't see? And Henry Fonda just says, well, I don't know. I want to talk about it. The kid's 18 years old. You know, he was beaten by his father. He wasn't treated very well. And I just think he deserves a conversation. I think that we should review the evidence, go over what we saw, and, just talk about it. Let's just talk about what happened here.
This kid's been kicked around all of his life. Born in a slum, mother dead since he was 9. He lived for a year and a half in an orphanage when his father was serving a jail term for forgery. It's not a very happy beginning. He's a wild, angry kid. That's all he's ever been. And you know why? Because he's been hit on the head by somebody once a day, every day. He's had a pretty miserable 18 years. I just think we owe him a few words, that's all.
So, they decide that that's what's going to have to happen because he's not going to change his verdict, and they all have to agree on what the verdict is. So, they start talking, and the first issue they kind of talk about is that there was a switchblade found in the crime scene that was owned by the kid. This is a unique switchblade that no one's ever seen before. It has a unique design on it, and there's no possible way that anyone else could have had this kind of unique switchblade. So they kind of press juror number 8, like, what do you think of this evidence? This is evidence that was found at the crime scene, and it belongs to the kid. And the father was stabbed to death. Like, what do you think about this? And Henry Fonda says, oh, I don't know. And then he ends up presenting a knife that looks exactly the same as the one that the boy had.
Take a look at this knife. It's a very unusual knife. I've never seen one like it. Neither had the storekeeper who sold it to the boy. Aren't you asking us to accept a pretty incredible coincidence?
I'm just saying a coincidence is possible.
And I say it's not possible.
Where did that come from? It's the same knife.
The jurors are shocked and amazed by this. They can't believe that there's another knife that looks like this. And where did you get this knife? What happened? And Henry Fonda's like, oh, I went to the pawn shop close to where the kid lived, and I found another knife. Now, this would result in a mistrial because you're not supposed to do any outside evidence seeking on your own. You're not actually someone who is supposed to go out and investigate what happened. You're supposed to look at the evidence that was presented in the court. You're supposed to argue the evidence and come up with a decision based on that. But he comes up with another knife, and this ends up convincing. And as he's coming up with this other knife, he also discredits the boy's attorney. He says, I don't think the attorney knew what they were doing. I don't think they really tried hard enough. In fact, I would have asked different questions than that attorney asked. And he's like hired by the state. I don't think he was really trying. And so he basically discredits the the kid's attorney, and maybe the attorney wasn't good, I don't know, but so he discredits the knife, he discredits the other attorney, and he ends up getting another person to side with him. They do another round of voting, and he gets someone else to side with him, and this is an older man. I think he is juror number 9. So now 8 and 9 are all for this. They think that he is innocent. So they continue talking. The second subject they talk about is there was a gentleman who lived downstairs who heard this kid arguing with his father. He heard the kid say, like, "I'll kill you," and then he heard like a body drop. And then this guy who lives downstairs saw the boy, coming down a flight of stairs after the body dropped. So Peter Fonda then decides to start discrediting this witness as well.
Maybe the boy did kill his father. Didn't hear the scream, did run out in a panic, did calm down 3 hours later and come back to get the knife, risking being caught by the police. Maybe all of those things happened, but maybe they didn't. I think there's enough doubt that we can wonder whether he was there at all during the time the killing took place.
What do you mean, Del? What are you talking about? Didn't the old man see him running out of the house? He's twisting the facts, I'm telling you. Did or didn't the old man see the kid running out of the house at 12:10?
There was a train that they lived by. You couldn't have heard the guy say, you couldn't have heard the boy say, "I'll kill you," because there was a train that went by. And, people say, "I kill you" all the time. They don't mean it. This boy was slapped and he was hit and he was knocked around by his father. He didn't mean that he was going to kill him. That's just something people say.
Thanks. I think we proved that the old man couldn't have heard the boy say, "I'm going to kill you." But supposing he did.
Prove it at all. What are you talking about?
Supposing he really did hear it. This phrase, how many times have all of us used it? Probably thousands. I could kill you for that, darling. Junior, you do that once more and I'm going to kill you. Get in there, Rocky, and kill you. Say it every day. That doesn't mean we're really going to kill him.
Wait a minute. What?
So, here Henry Fonda is basically making assumptions that, instead of going based off what the witness said, that he heard the kid yell, "I'll kill you," he heard the body drop, and then he saw the kid running out of the room. Instead, he's making assumptions that, this couldn't have happened because there was a train that went by, the train's loud, no one really means that when they say it. So, we can go ahead and discredit this witness, and let's move on. So after Peter Fonda discredits this witness, Juror 9 decides it's now his turn to discredit this witness. I call Juror 9, you probably didn't notice that, because there's a few times in this movie where he also decides to jump in and make assumptions, and it seems like he always says, "I don't know if you noticed," So when it comes to this guy who lived downstairs, he says that this guy probably made everything up in court because he was someone who wasn't really noticed in life, and he just wanted attention. And he gives credit to this by saying that this gentleman had a torn coat in court. So clearly he was poor, he was old, he was just like juror number 9. He says, I think that I understand this person more than anyone else because this guy's like me. And you can tell by the fact that he has this torn coat that he's no one in life, that no one recognizes him, no one cares about him. So he's making up this story so that he can be somebody, so he can be someone special. And that's why he said he heard the kid, not because he heard the kid, but because he just wants attention.
Why do you think the old man might lie?
Yeah, it was just that I looked at him for a very long time. Seemed the jacket was split under the shoulder. Oh, did you notice that? I mean, to come to court like that. I think I know this man better than anyone here. This is a quiet, frightened, insignificant old man who has been nothing all his life, who has never had recognition or his name in the newspapers. Nobody knows him. Nobody quotes him. Nobody seeks his advice after 75 years. Gentlemen, that's a very sad thing to mean nothing.
And apparently, everyone eats this up because they believe it too. I think after this point, he gets a couple more people on his side. So now it's even less of a gap between people who think he's innocent and not innocent. For the third round, there was the kid said that he went to the movies, and but he couldn't remember what movie he saw. That he wasn't there at the time that his father was killed because he was watching a movie. And the jurors think that this is a big thing that he couldn't remember what movie he was watching. And Peter Fonda says, I bet you couldn't remember a movie you saw yesterday. And then he asks one of the jurors, and of course the juror can't remember the movie he saw yesterday or the day before or 3 days ago. For some reason...
Times. That's correct. It's the only alibi the boy offered, and he himself couldn't back it up with any details at all.
Putting yourself in the boy's place, do you think you could remember details after an upsetting experience such as being slapped in the face by your father?
I think so. Is there any special details to remember? The boy couldn't remember the names of the movies he saw because he wasn't there that night.
According to the police testimony in court, the boy was questioned by the detectives in the kitchen of his apartment, while the body of his father was lying on the floor in the bedroom. Do you think you could remember details under those circumstances?
I don't know, it's pretty easy for me to remember these things. If someone asked me, what did you watch yesterday? I could tell them yesterday I watched Forensic Files. I can remember what I watched, but apparently this kid couldn't remember what he watched. And then Peter Fonda once again says, this kid was beaten around so much, and when he saw his father, he came home and he saw his father dead. It was such a tragic event that he probably doesn't remember what movie he saw. And it's just normal for people not to remember these things. So then he gets a couple more people on his side. He convinces a couple more people that this guy is not guilty. And then I think the final thing that they argue about, there's this lady who said that she heard the attack and she woke up right away. She lives across the street, and even though there was a train going by, she could see what was going on in the window, through the windows of the train, because no one was on it. And she distinctly saw this 18-year-old kill his father, and she knows the 18-year-old. She knew him since he was a kid, and this was definitely the person who killed the father. So the juror number 9, Mr. I don't know if you noticed that, he pipes up again. He looks at juror number 4, and juror number 4 has these lines on his nose from where his glasses are. And he looks at him and he says, hey, I noticed you got those lines on your nose. Is that from your glasses? And juror number 4 says, yes, it's from my glasses. And the old man says, well, I don't know if you noticed this, but the girl across the street also had those markings on her nose, and I bet you she doesn't wear glasses when she sleeps. And juror number 4 says, yeah, no one wears glasses when they sleep. That's correct. You're right. My God, she didn't see anything. You know, of course, the other guys who haven't been convinced yet, they say, how do you know she didn't wake up and put her glasses on? She could have woke up, put her glasses on, and looked across the street. And, you know, Peter Fonda's not having any of that. He's like, no, 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 no. We can just go ahead and deduce that she didn't do that.
Your eyeglasses made those two deep impressions in the sides of your nose. I hadn't noticed that before. That must be annoying.
It is very annoying.
Oh, I wouldn't know about that. I've never worn eyeglasses. 20/20.
Listen, will you come on already with the optometrist bit?
The woman who testified that she saw the killing had those same marks on the sides of her nose.
Holy smokes, you know he's right.
Now, for one, I can't wear glasses when I'm looking at my monitor, but I normally wear glasses. And when I hear something at night, I immediately wake up, I have my glasses on my nightstand, put my glasses on, and look what I'm looking at. It doesn't take that long to do that. And this lady could have done that. There's no reason why she couldn't have. They act like her glasses are in another room or something. But, you know, they discredit her as well, and they decide that she also could not have had her glasses on, and she probably didn't even see what was going on, even though she said she did. So I think now we have two witnesses that are discredited, and then we have the boy who was also discredited when he said that he couldn't remember what movie he saw. It's just the boy who can't remember anything. So after that, we have juror number 10, who is the resident racist of the group. And he goes on a bit of a racist tirade about why this kid is guilty and how they're all guilty. Just, you know the kind they are. They're all guilty. You know, that's basically his argument, and he argues that for a couple minutes.
You saw this kid just like I did. You're not going to tell me you believe that phony story about losing the knife and that business about being at the movies? Look, you know how these people lie? It's born in them. I mean, what the heck? I don't have to tell you. They don't know what the truth is. And let me tell you, they don't need any real big reason to kill someone either. No, sir.
And then they make him sit in the corner and tell him he can't talk anymore. And then the final guy, the last guy, who is the only one who has decided not to go with not guilty, he is juror number 3. And this is a juror who had a teenage child. He had a bit of an argument with the child, got into a physical altercation with the teenage child, and now the teenager is like in his 20s and has no contact with his father because of his father's mannerisms and because his father, you know, was rough on him and beat him for not being the kind of boy that he wanted him to be, for not being a man. So juror number 3 goes on this. I mean, it's probably one of the best acting performances in this movie, and that's hard to say because this movie's filled with just such top-notch acting performances. But this speech that he gives is about how kids don't respect their fathers and how this kid probably killed his father because all teenagers are like that. And then he kind of breaks down and has this emotional breakdown. He takes a picture out of his wallet of him and his teenager, and he kind of like falls onto the table, and he starts crying, and then he says, "Not guilty."
The movies I saw, I'm telling you, everything that's gone on has been twisted and turned. This business with the glasses, how do you know she didn't have them on? This woman testified in open court. And what about hearing the kid yell? Huh? I'm telling you, I've got all the facts here. Here. Well, that's it. That's the whole case.
Now they have all 12 not guilties, so the kid is decided to have not killed his father. And that's the movie in a nutshell. Like I said, greatest acting performances from a ensemble cast I've ever seen in my life. This movie is set in one room, and the camera work is spectacular. And for this type of movie, the camera work has to be spectacular because, I mean, you're in one room, so if your camera work is bad, the whole movie's going to fall apart. And then the fact that these acting performances keep you compelled and keep you into this movie and keep you on the edge of your seat. No CGI, with no tricks, no nothing. It's just 12 guys in a room arguing with each other, talking to each other, having debates with each other, and the fact that they can make this so compelling and so entertaining is phenomenal. I don't know how they were able to do it. It's just a master film and the way it's made and the way it's acted. And it's also, you know, kind of a leadership movie. Peter Fonda is a transactional leader in this movie. He plays, so, you know, if you get into an argument with someone and you know that you feel strongly about a certain side and someone else feels strongly about a certain side, you're not going to get anywhere because there's no middle ground. Peter Fonda in the beginning of this movie plays that middle ground because he says, oh, I don't know if he's guilty or innocent or not. So I think it opens up the idea to people that he's willing to go either way. He's willing to play either side of this fence. And I think it really helps his cause for trying to get people over to his side, for people to have this conversation and to really think about what happens. But at the end, I think he's wrong, to be perfectly honest. This movie is fantastic. This movie's a 10 out of 10 for me just because of the way it's filmed. I mean, the way that the acting is phenomenal. This movie is gripping. It's like an hour and a half, and it's fantastic. But the way they came to these conclusions and these assumptions are just ridiculous at times. I mean, the old man who thinks that the guy has a ripped suit, and that's why he wants attention. When I first started my job, I had a job in finance. I was poor. Like, I grew up poor. I didn't have any money. My parents were poor. Everyone I knew was poor. And I had to wear a suit that barely fit me because it's all I could afford, and it wasn't the best suit, and it was torn a little bit maybe on the sleeve, and I wasn't seeking attention. I just couldn't afford anything. And the fact that he's making this assumption that this guy is attention seeking because he doesn't, he's not in the spotlight in life. He's not, you know, no one recognizes him. No one knows who he is. And that's why he's testifying, to me, is just absolutely absurd and ridiculous. There's actually times when juror number 3, who's the last holdout, and he's telling people, like, you're absurd. You're being ridiculous. You have to go based on the evidence. I actually agree with this guy. You're not, you know, I don't think you're really supposed to, because you're supposed to see that juror number 3 is the villain and that he's wrong and that he needs to come to the other side. But I don't think he's wrong all the time. Like, sure, his motives that he's driven by is wrong. He's driven by the fact that he doesn't like teenagers, and that's one reason why he wants to convict this kid. But he's also looking at the evidence that was presented to him. Like, I think this movie, for me, this movie is telling you that, like, if you have a prejudice, you can't look past it, that your prejudice is totally defining who you are and what your decision making is. And I don't think that's correct. Like, Peter Fonda is the kind of guy who's brought into this courtroom to make people look past their prejudices, to make people look past the way they think about people. I mean, there's a guy in this movie who's obviously racist. There's a guy in this movie who hates poor people. There's a poor person in this movie. There's a foreigner, so you have the foreigner and the racist. You have the poor guy and the person who hates poor people. So you have that push and pull through the movie. You have an old man, and you have a guy who thinks that, you know, maybe old men don't know what they're talking about. So there's also a guy on the jury who's been on a bunch of juries, and then a guy who hasn't been on any juries. So Peter Fonda is supposed to be that middle ground that's supposed to say, hey, look, I'm going to dig past your feelings that you have about each other. I'm going to dig past your prejudices, and I'm going to make you see that this person is innocent. When he's probably not, because it would be a huge coincidence for me, a huge coincidence for every single witness to just be wrong and to have seen things incorrectly, and you know, for their evidence to not make any sense. In this type of situation, you're only supposed to go based on the evidence. There's a scene in this movie where Peter Fonda tries to reenact what he thinks the older guy at the bottom floor, how he walks, so he's like dragging his leg so that he can walk slow. But you know, you don't know that this is actually what happened. This movie is just full of so many assumptions, and it's full of so many non-facts that they're basing their decisions on, that at some point, to me, the part with the ripped coat was towards the end, and then when the old man starts talking about the glasses and how the girl couldn't have gotten her glasses on in time to see it. I mean, it just comes off as a little bit ridiculous, honestly. When I was young, when I was in my young teens, I absolutely adored this movie. Like, I thought that this is what a court trial was supposed to be. That when you get in there, you're supposed to shake things up, and you're supposed to make sure that these people act this way, and that they consider the evidence this way, but I don't really think, now that I'm older, I don't think that this is right. Like, I don't think that they're doing what they're supposed to be doing. And at the end, do they reach the correct conclusion? I don't know. Like, if you're supposed to ponder the evidence, then no. But if you're supposed to go off assumptions and off gut feelings and off trying to recreate crime scenes and recreate events that you really don't know if it happened that way, then sure, he's innocent. But I still argue that juror number 8 was wrong, that his methods were wrong. Now, he did a great job at being a leader, trying to be like the middle ground person who everyone goes to, and everyone's trying to the middle ground with no prejudice or anything, but he's just wrong. And it leaves kind of a weird feeling after I finished watching the movie, and I think, oh God, I don't think they got that right. But I mean, anyway, the movie has great acting. It is considered a masterpiece, masterpiece in directing, masterpiece in camera work, masterpiece in acting. The way they ended up cutting this movie was fantastic. Everything is great. Even at the end of the movie, like, even though it may not be factually correct, and it may leave a bad taste in my mouth, I still come away thinking that this is a great movie, and I still give it a 10 out of 10. Thank you. I hope you join me next time when I review another courtroom drama, Witness for the Prosecution. Thank you. Have a great day.